What's up, welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm tackling I'm Still Here. It's a 2024 release. You're probably aware of that. It's a little late. I waited until it hit Netflix. I actually have seen this technically before. I get offered a lot of screeners around awards time that don't have audio description, and I just chose not to review I'm Still Here, but I did technically play it with words I could not understand because I did not speak. I think one day, eventually, technology will have some sort of AI device that translates the text uh, just coming out of the film. But until such day, these films remain widely inaccessible unless given audio description to people who don't at least speak the language spoken in the movie. So, luckily, Sony Pictures Classics put audio description on it, and that audio description made it to Netflix. So, we get to talk about I'm Still Here, directed by Walter Salles, who previously directed The Motorcycle Diaries, which I actually really liked. I got to see that before losing my sight. I was actually part of my I guess, international cinema course when I was in film school. Really enjoyed that film. In Central Station, where he previously worked with Fernanda Montenegro, who is co-starring here, along with her daughter, Fernanda Torres. And they're playing the same person. Isn't that lovely? Um, so this film was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It was also nominated for Best Actress at the Academy Awards, but it won Best International Feature at the Academy Awards. And I think it deserved it. I mean, granted, not all of the choices were accessible, but there were a couple that were in contention. Kneecap and Touch both had audio description attached to them, so they were both in the top 15. They were both shortlisted, ultimately not getting nominations. So I think probably we picked the right one. I could be more definitive in that if all of these films had a wider spread of audio description, but if we're going this versus Emilia Perez, yeah, this is the better film. Um, it's based on a true story about a politician who, in the middle of political upheaval in Brazil, is essentially renditioned away from his family and never seen again. And his wife is trying to find out where he went, what happened to him. There's basically no acknowledgement that he was ever even taken. She also is taken and harassed and questioned by the regime at the time, as well as her eldest daughter is also taken and harassed at the same time for, do they know these, crazy radical people who are seeking to overthrow whatever that regime is. Uh, Political dramas in this day and age can hit on pretty much any level, depending on where you live and what your country's like. I think in America, a film like I'm Still Here hits even better now than it did maybe when it was running for an Oscar. I kind of think it's possible that if this film had just waited a year, it might have just won the whole thing. um, there's so much to say here about not respecting, uh, you know, just general, I don't know, human decency, law, ethics, and just governments that are ruled, uh, steeped in fear and just uh, seeking power, squash anyone who opposes them. So if there's some uh, politician from a previous regime out there that has said anything suggestively negative or stands on some way politically opposed, even if they're quote, out of the game, they still remain a threat to the system. So uh, that's, I guess, that's the political undercurrent that drives I'm Still Here. But what it's ultimately about is about this woman who has to overcome the loss of her husband without ever like a finite knowledge of whatever happened to him. Because while I think she always has a sneaking suspicion of what happened to him, and that knowing that because he's being labeled a political dissident, that likely he's not alive anymore, there is always that chance that he's just being held somewhere in some camp, that he was taken somewhere, and that he could be returned to his family at any time. So she's holding on to that grain of hope, but it's a grain of hope that ultimately she needs closure on. So she keeps pushing. She also grows into having to be sort of an independent, very different type of woman, and goes back and gets her law degree, and takes on court cases, and uh, challenges the system in her own unique way as Brazil continues to grow and change under new leadership, with new politics. She continues to maintain being a force in and of herself, all the while just basically wanting to know what the hell happened to her husband all those years ago. So the film is somewhat frustrating in and of the idea that the thing that you want to know is the thing that's going to keep it from you. So it's, if you came in looking for a political thriller, it kind of starts as that, and then it kind of becomes a story about taking a different path, being on a different journey, a journey of self-discovery, a journey about a woman finding the strength to then carry her family because she has kids and no husband. And there's a scene where she tries to go to the bank and she can't access things because there's no husband for a signature. So a lot of things that she can't do because her husband is not there, nor has he been pronounced legally dead, you know. So uh, there are a lot of challenges that she faces because there is no finite resolution to the system. So you can almost feel that resistance to embracing the film for everything that it is, because it wants to be two things, and it is two things. It's which is why it's a little long, because it's balancing being both her story and also trying to wrap us up in the politics. I think probably the one thing that I fell short a little bit in was understanding more about Brazil's politics just in general. Not that we 100% need to, but I kind of wanted to. One of the things I love about international cinema is the ability to understand other perspectives and opinions. And without understanding what it is about the regime that he is sort of taken by, what it is that he disagrees on, what was it that, what are all of these ideas? What are the ideas that kill? What are the ideas that caused all of this to happen? What is the ideology and the politics behind the driving force of him being taken? I think that's probably the one thing that put me just a little bit, just a hint behind, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen, was just wanting to know more about Brazil and the politics and the culture of it within the film. Yes, I can look it up. Yes, I can read about it. These people are real. This really happened. This is a real story. So all of that is true, but also within the context of the film, sometimes I think we make things that sort of politically dodge, and that's an intentional choice. I think last year was one of the problems that I had with Alex Garland's Civil War, was specifically that even though it shows sort of this dystopian future where America's broken into different factions and sort of the dangers of it, it doesn't really explain why, how, or what the different factions are. It doesn't explain at all what the similarities are, what the differences are. It doesn't explain how California and Texas are connected, even though they don't actually touch as states. It doesn't actually explain how all of these different, like, there are some times when they show their press passes, and there are other times when they hide them. Like, there's sometimes when it's okay to be press, and other times when it's not okay to be press. But it doesn't ever go into why that is, because we don't actually know what anybody stands for. And it's out of a desire to remain politically neutral and to get people talking about just simply the basic horror of having another civil war in America. But it kind of loses a little bit the thread for me when it stands for nothing. You know, if you stand for nothing, what do you fall for? That's the line from Hamilton. Kind of makes me think of that here. Is what what is it that he stands for? What is it that the regime that takes him stands for? What is it that they disagree on? What is currently happening that they can talk about more? It kind of just focuses on him being a really regular guy at the beginning. He's just normal. He's pretty average. They're chilling. They're hanging out with their family, and we don't spend a lot of time with the politics. It's not shown. It's not. See, I think Seed of the Sacred Fig, from what I can tell, has a little bit more of a uh, drop into what the politics of the time are, and why things are certain, or why things are dangerous, why the choices are. This just kind of taps into the fear. Um, there was a streaming series last year that touched on the same thing, that took place in Ireland, called Say Nothing, where in the middle of the night, this woman was taken from her family, from her kids, and never to be seen again. And it was just part of a larger story, but it showed sort of it expanded beyond that into the why. That ended up sort of not being the catalyst, not beginning the beginning part of the story, but we had to walk back and get to that point and then learn why that was, and it became sort of part of the larger mystery. Things that you can tackle sort of in series form that you can't tackle in movie form. So um, I I'm sure that no matter what was revealed about what he thought about and what the current climate of Brazil was at the time, we would still empathize with his family for him being taken. Uh, you know, so it's something that we could dive into, and the movie already has a long runtime to begin with. So it's not like we're already here, might as well. So um, that would be my only complaint. But I've had the same complaint about other films too. Is just uh, it's that it's such a culture that we live in now, where politics can be so divisive that filmmakers are just avoiding it altogether. They don't want you to know what somebody stands for because they're afraid that you won't empathize with them anymore. I think that's a falsity. I think uh, if you show something that's harrowing enough, um, and you direct it well, and Walter Salles is a good director, I I don't think that there's something that's preventing you from being able to connect and empathize with somebody being taken from their home and not being given due process for anything that happens to them, and just being accused of. So I think investing just a little bit more time in the history of Brazil, for those, knowing that this film is likely going to reach an international audience at some point. I think we have films in America that talk about history and politics. They're not all Civil War. So, um, and then people in other countries end up picking up and learning more about our culture from those movies. I think that happens. Uh, I thought Fernando Torres was excellent, brilliant, and Fernanda Montenegro. You know, combining them together is just sort of brilliant casting. We have so many actors and actresses here in Hollywood who are like second generations, that it's weird that we don't do this more often. It's weird that we haven't had a movie where Kate Hudson becomes Goldie Hawn, or where, like, where it's Goldie Hawn and it flashes back and it's Kate Hudson or something like that. Um, it's weird that we don't have, uh, you know, Patrick Schwarzenegger playing the young version of Arnold in a movie. It just it just feels like, why not? You know, I mean, we have so many opportunities uh, with these pairings that I just feel like they're all missed opportunities. So, um, yeah, I think probably uh, just I think the film benefits a lot from brilliant casting choices, and Fernanda Montenegro uh, being, nominated previously for Central Station helps elevate the profile of this film, and it being the selection from Brazil. So lots of things that ended up helping the profile of I'm Still Here. I like the score. I like the beats. I wasn't bored by the film. That's why I'm saying, like, you could have added 5 to 10 minutes more and just sort of uh, gone a little bit deeper into why. I think everybody would have been fine. The film is what it is. It is the length that it is. It's not, you know, uh, it's not insurmountable. You didn't make like a film that was 3.5 hours, and adding 10 more minutes to it feels like a huge ask. Um, so the audio description here, I believe, oddly enough, Netflix cut it off while it was speaking to me, which was so weird because I sat all the way through the credits and it cut like it wasn't there. Like it ended the film. It kicked back to the main screen. I don't know why. It's like he was in the middle of talking. He was about to reveal he was going through all like the pursuant to the uh, this film is under the license of, and any readings of all of the bullshit that's at the end of the film. I think it's Media Access Group because this is the same narrator who works a lot with Media Access Group. I think it's Andrew Thatcher that does the narration. I didn't check the voice that's doing. We have a male narrator doing the audio description and a female narrator doing all of the voices, which is not necessarily preferable. We've done this before. It's There are versions of how to do international audio description. This is not the worst one. The worst one is having, well, AI do everything, and then like one voice doing everything is a lot, because then you're switching from audio description into dialogue all the time, and it becomes sort of frenetic. Uh, Examples of this that I can think of are the Teachers Lounge, which was Germany's international nominee the year before this, which was also Sony Pictures Classics. So I guess they leveled up and decided to pay for two people instead of one. But yeah, Teachers Lounge was maddening to try to figure out what was going on in that. And Shogun has one person doing the whole thing, FX's Shogun limited series. Um, then you have things like this. Currently, I'm catching up on Hulu's No Man's Land, which is the same thing. At least season one is. Season one is a narrator, Tansy Alexander, and then all of the voices are being done by Dave Wallace, which he's trying. He's changing his pitch a lot, but it still is just a guy who ends up voicing all the female characters. So there isn't really like a break. And I know it's so simplistic to say male female in this regard, because there's like, what space is there for non-binary? Right. Listen, it's just about tonality and voice and being able to try to hear a difference in conversation. And it's a little weird when you can tell somebody has a distinctly masculine sound in their voice and they're voicing female characters, and vice versa. It was a little odd here listening to a female character trying to voice the male characters. However, it is kind of they made the right choice because we have a female lead. So most of the dialogue is coming from a female lead. So we did match a female. It would be worse if it was a male if we flipped it to where a female was doing the audio description and a male was doing the voices. Because then you'd have a guy voicing Fernando Torres and the whole time. It would just be it's less fun. But the best way to do it is, well, the better way to do it is have two people, but the best way to do it is to actually, employ an audio description team to come in and really think about what it is they're describing. This is not dubbing either. I'll point to A24's The Zone of Interest, which budgeted the film in a way where multiple narrators were brought in to cover the characters. They weren't acting, they were reading subtitles. So they were able to change up different scenes so you could actually hear different voices within the same scene. So it wasn't that one guy was reading all the male voices or one female was reading all the female voices. They actually had a couple different voices that were bouncing around. They didn't, there wasn't one for every character, but it became became a lot easier to be able to follow scenes where multiple people were talking. So yeah, I would think probably that's the most preferred way. I don't always need dubbing. So dubbing is different than audio description. Audio description is something that should just happen anyway, naturally. Dubbing is a choice. And the fact that there are things that are dubbed but not audio described is frustrating because people don't actually need dubbing. They just choose it. It's out of laziness to not read. If you have poor enough vision that you can't read subtitles, you probably would benefit from audio description. So making the audio description track first would be the priority. So what do I think about I'm Still Here? I thought it was pretty great. Has excellent performances. There's something about it that disconnects me from it just because not knowing necessarily the political ramifications of everything, not being Brazilian, not being able to know the deep history of every single country and what it is that they stand or fall for. It's coming in the same year where I had the same critique for Civil War. It's like, I would love to know what this person was being charged with. What is the difference? What were their thoughts? What is it? That's the only thing. It's such a minor thing because the film really is about this woman who then has to come out of this, but he doesn't disappear for a little bit into the movie. This is not like a character who's in for the first 5 minutes of the movie and we just don't know, and then the whole movie is about her. We spend a decent amount of time with him, so it does kind of matter. I'm gonna give I'm Still Here an A-. I just would have invested just a little bit more time and not avoided saying why things were the way that they were. What was it that made him so incendiary that he needed to be shut down? What was it that the current regime was afraid of? I think that would have made way more sense. It's just sort of generically like he's a political rabble-rouser. And I think we can do better than that. I think the film is excellent. And I realized it came out the same year that I bitched about Civil War for the same thing. And I've seen that movie twice. And people just kept telling me, they're like, Civil War is better than that. I was like, I just can't connect to a film where I know nothing about the political landscape or the choices or why one place is safer than the next. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.